Omaha Mom Talks, proudly sponsored by Diventures Swim School, where giggles and goggles unite. Hey everyone, and welcome back to Omaha Mom Talks. I'm your host, Chelsi, and today we have a special guest, Chelsi Morales. You might know her as a working mom of 3, a content creator on Instagram, or from her work in the finance field, but today we're getting a behind-the-scenes look of how she juggles all of the things: career, motherhood, social media, and life's unexpected curveballs. Today, we're talking about navigating love, marriages, the challenges that come with being a working mom, and all the stuff in between. She's keeping it real about the pressures of having it all together, setting boundaries, and finding joys in the chaos. If you're a mom who feels stretched too thin or just wants some inspiration for someone who's also going through it all right there with you, this episode is for you. So grab your favorite beverage and let's get into it. All right, Chelsi, thank you so much for joining us on Omaha Mom Talks.
Yes, I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We are super excited to chat with you and all the busy things that you're up to. I have followed you on social media for quite a long time because we have kids a similar age and we're in the same city of Omaha. But for our listeners who aren't familiar with you, why don't you share with us a little bit about you and what you're up to these days?
Yeah, so I'm originally here from Omaha. My husband and I traveled around a little bit before we were married and decided that Omaha was just home. It's our favorite place. And obviously a great place to raise a family.
Yes.
Like you mentioned, I have kiddos. So I have 3 kids, a 7-year-old, a 4-year-old, and then an almost 3-year-old. I work full time outside of the house in addition to the content creation and Instagram. So that can get a little crazy at times.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think about something about me.
Yeah, so I'd asked her,
to do. Yeah.
Like, what's something about you outside of being a mom? And it's so hard, right?
It is. Okay, I have one. I love birthdays.
Okay.
I grew up in a family where my mom just like went all out, not with gifts. It's just about making like the day about us. Like she would historically make a sign and we would have to wear this silly birthday crown and like streamers that would be at our seat. And then we have the birthday plate, the red one that I feel like so many families have.
Okay.
And you sign your name on it every year. And so my husband did not grow up in a family that was like that. Mm-hmm. And so it's been fun to kind of merge that together with him and now be able to do that for our kids together. But even like outside of our kids, like I love everybody's birthdays.
I love that.
Yeah, it's gift giving is one of my love languages. I always say like finding the perfect gift for somebody. So I feel like that kind of goes along with that.
I love that. Oh my gosh. I am so jealous of people who are good gift givers because I'm not. Like you just have like those friends or like my sister, like somehow always manage to get something like, how did you know I wanted this?
Yeah.
So I love when people have that talent because that is not one of mine. I usually like go with a gift card because it's easy.
You can never go wrong with a gift card.
Yes. So let's just bring it back. I heard you say that you grew up in Omaha and you grew up in this area. Were you always like a high achiever growing up, a multitasker, or what were you kind of like in your younger days?
Yes. So I grew up with a father that is like very type A, like extreme type A, had a laminated like map of his closet for the gal that would help out with laundry on like where to put things and how he wanted them, like very regimented, which has also made him very successful. But just growing up with somebody that's like that in your household, I feel like, and being the oldest, I think also.
How many siblings do you have?
I have 2 younger siblings.
Okay.
Yeah, 2 younger sisters. That just kind of shaped how I viewed the world and then my habits. So, and then I was always involved in a lot. Like my parents always just encouraged us to try a lot of different activities and extracurriculars. And so I feel like you almost have to be organized in order to be able to do all of those activities.
Yeah.
And
did I see somewhere on your social media that you did college sports?
I did. I played college volleyball at UNK.
Okay, very cool. I went to UNK too.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah,
oh,
yeah. That's where my husband and I met. So
okay.
Go Lopers.
Yes.
Yes, and my siblings went there too. We loved Kearney.
So fun.
But you definitely have to be regimented to be an athlete at that level, right?
Yeah.
To be able to maintain your academics and social life and being physical and sports and all of that. So
yeah, I mean, they say, and I feel like you don't fully understand or grasp it until you're in it, but they say it's like a full-time job playing college athletics. And it is because, you miss a lot of time being on the road and being in Kearney. We traveled a lot on the weekends to Colorado and would have to drive. And so just, making sure you're staying on top of your schoolwork and catching up on what you missed and still having to do everything that everybody else did on top of the workouts and
it's
strength training and games and everything.
Totally a lot to manage. So you were always kind of responsible and organized, it sounds like, which is great. Did you always know you wanted to be a mom?
So it's funny you ask that. I did, but to me, it was going to be career woman and then mom when I had time.
Okay.
And my younger sister was the complete opposite. She was like, I want to be barefoot in the kitchen for the rest of my life and maybe have a career. And we have completely flip-flopped.
Okay.
Where now I'm like, being a mom is my priority. I love my job that I have outside of the home, but it's comes, second or third or further down. And never did I think that I would have 3 kids, hopefully 4 someday.
Okay, you guys are maybe having another one. That's
We'd
exciting.
like to. We had always said when we got married that we wanted for sure 2 kids, maybe 3. We both came from families of 3.
Okay.
And then we got to 2 and we were like, okay, we for sure want another one, maybe 4. We'll kind of feel it out. And then Cooper, our youngest, was a surprise.
Okay.
So her and our middle child, Hendrix, are only 16 months apart.
Oh, wow.
And I feel like we mentally just didn't get to prepare for her being our last.
Okay.
And so that plus my husband's cancer diagnosis, all of that really just confirmed our want and desire to at least try for a 4th kiddo someday.
Okay. Very exciting. Yeah. Well, I want to chat a little bit. You mentioned your husband's cancer diagnosis. Before we do that, let's just chat about, introduce us to your husband, how you guys met. Tell us a little bit about that story.
So my husband is Will, and we met, if you ask him, he will tell you that we met at a friend's birthday party.
Okay.
But the truth of it is...
This is not a G-rated podcast, so you can tell us the real version.
No, it's nothing bad. But we were at a bar. He was at a friend's birthday party at this bar. But he had a friend that literally I was out on a girls' night that literally pushed him into me while I was dancing. And I turned around. I was like, oh, hi, you're kind of cute. And that's literally what started it all.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
how long have you guys been together?
Let's see here. We met in 2011 and we've been married. It'll be 11 years this year.
Okay.
Which is crazy because I feel like we just got married.
Oh yeah. Time is so funny, isn't it?
It is. Yeah.
Especially once you start having kids.
Oh my gosh. Yes. What is time even?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So Will is very into health and wellness and taking care of his body and, just really making sure that he's setting himself up for the best possible future and to be able to play with our kids as long as he can. And so the cancer diagnosis was a complete shock. He would be the last person on earth that I would expect to have that. And even when we were going through the process of getting the diagnosis, because he didn't have any symptoms.
Okay. How did you guys find out?
I mean, it was a complete fluke. So he was on testosterone because he had low testosterone. And
as many men do and should get checked out.
Yes, and get your PSA checked. He was on testosterone and wanted to switch. He was on the oral to the shots, which you don't have to take every day.
Okay.
I think it's every week. And in doing that switch, they checked his PSA, which I think is it's prostate-specific antigen or something like that. And it was a little bit elevated, but a lot of things can cause that. If he's, you've ridden a bike recently, like within 24 hours. There's a lot of different stipulations that can affect it. He's a big bike rider.
Okay.
So they're like, okay, let's retest. It's elevated, but we'll have you come back. Came back and tested it just with our GP, and it was still elevated. Checked him for symptoms. Had nothing, like nothing was besides that elevated PSA, like nothing was out of whack elsewhere. So he's like, there's no way that you have prostate cancer, but we'll send you to a urologist just to get this checked out. Again, the urologist went through the same steps, did the PSA, did the other checks, and was like, yeah, I don't know what's going on.
Okay.
What's causing this to be elevated? There's no way that you have cancer. If you want, like, we can do I think it was first an MRI. I'm like, well, yeah, we want to figure out what's causing this. Let's do the MRI. They did the MRI. It came back inconclusive, where it's like, it might be something, it might not. So again, he left it.
And if two providers are telling you you don't have cancer, I'm thinking, I don't have cancer, and I don't want to keep running tests.
Yes.
To rack up medical bills.
Right. Like that, it gets expensive. And so he said that we could do a biopsy if we wanted. And I'm like, let's just do the biopsy, have answers, and then we can go from there. And so they did the biopsy, and it came back as prostate cancer. And I just remember sitting on the couch, knowing that the urologist was going to be calling that day with the results. And we'll call, because I texted him, I was like, hey, have you heard? Did you get the results? In my mind, it's like, you don't have cancer. Like, what is it? Yeah. And he called me, and he was like, Chelsi, I have cancer. And it was just like, I mean, people talk about how your life just like stops, and that was just what it was. Okay. It's like I froze, and I'm like, how does the healthiest person that I know, who eats healthy, exercises every day, like pushes your body to the limits in every way possible, like how do you have cancer?
Yeah.
So that was the start of it. We met with the oncologist, or the urologist, to see if we wanted to have a prostatectomy, which is where they remove the prostate, which can introduce a whole slew of other issues with incontinence and erectile dysfunction. And I mean, he was 36 at the time.
Still very young.
So he's like, how can I, potentially have all these things as a 36-year-old man? I mean, nobody wants to have that, but especially being so young.
And a young dad.
Dad, yeah. Cooper was 5 months old at the time.
So you're still in your postpartum journey with two other kids that you're taking care of so much.
Yeah, and met with an oncologist who gave us some options for medicine that he could take. And that was the route that we initially went down. I think it was only like 2 weeks that he was taking this medication that essentially was going to be putting the cancer to sleep.
Okay.
While we waited for some other trials to come or to become available. Because when you get your prostate removed, like, we can't have kids naturally anymore. So when we decide to try to expand our family, we'll have to go through fertility treatments. And in addition to that, just all of the complications that could come from the prostatectomy. Honestly, it came from a dream, which sounds really bizarre, but he woke up one day and he had this dream, and I can't remember exactly what happened in the dream, but he was like, I have to get this out. Like, I can't live knowing that this cancer is still inside of me. Mm-hmm. Like, I need to get it out, even knowing the complications that could come from it. And we scheduled the surgery. I think it was like a month later. And after getting it out, thankfully his margins were all clear, so he didn't have to go through chemo or radiation or anything.
Okay.
But the doctor said it was a lot more aggressive than they thought it was initially. So it was a really good thing that he decided to get it out. And props to him. He put in so much work leading up to the surgery that, I mean, he's completely back to normal, I would say, in all areas, and didn't have any of the complications that they kind of put the fear of God in us about.
Yeah. What a scary journey. So he's healthy and cancer-free.
Yes. Yeah. People ask, how's Will doing? I'm like, he's doing better than before. He just did not an Ironman, a triathlon last year.
Yeah, we're not just talking he's into health and fitness. No. It's like extreme health and fitness kind of person. I love it. Yeah. Okay. Wow. Yeah. So he's good and he's healthy. One of the things that You shared a little bit about that hard time, but I also know on your socials you share about like the good times too with your relationship, which I love. One of the things that in supporting moms as a mental health therapist, it's really hard to prioritize the relationship when you have young kids.
Yeah.
So share with us a little bit about what you guys do to really prioritize your relationship during early motherhood, meaning having young kids.
Yeah, it can be really, really hard, especially once you get into having multiple kids and they're so young. And time, like we were talking about time, the days goes by so fast, and there's laundry and dishes.
It never stops.
All of this never ending, just the mental load that you have.
Yes.
And so what we did, I think it was starting when we had Carson, our oldest, is we made it a point that every month, we actually made it one of our goals, because we'll do individual goals and then we'll do like family or couple goals.
Okay,
together.
Hold on. Let's pause for a second, because now I'm kind of remembering. Do you guys do like January family goals, or is that?
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Usually around the New Year is when we do it.
Okay. I think I saw that on social media. I love that.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people do them together or as a family. A lot of times it's an individual thing.
Yeah. So we started doing monthly date nights, which doesn't sound like a lot, but I feel like especially when you have young kids, like finding the child care, actually carving out the time, finding the energy to get yourself ready and like out of the house, because it's so easy to be like, oh, let's just order in and stay in. It'll just be easier.
Well, you say monthly doesn't sound like a lot. The first thing that went through my head is that sounds like a lot.
Yeah.
Because it's just so hard when you're juggling all of the things.
Right. But the key, I think, to the monthly date nights is that we take turns planning them.
Oh.
And so the one reason I like it is that you don't have that, what do you want to do? Oh, I don't care. Like, what do you want to do?
Yes.
I don't care either. And then you're just like, okay, well, should we just go to one of our
normal
regular spots that we always hit up? So it gets rid of that. And then also, I feel like it takes you back to when you were dating before you were married, because you don't know like what you're going to go do.
Yeah.
And it's really good for my control self freak to like be able to let go of the reins as much as I want to, plan all of them and just go along with whatever he's planned.
I love that.
Yeah.
So you do your monthly date nights, and then I love that you are tag teaming planning it, because yes, sometimes it's just like, I don't have time to like, cause I'm out of the loop on like what restaurants are new or cool or great. And so then I have to like research it or look it up or ask a friend. And so to be able to like share that responsibility, I love that idea.
Yeah. So that's one thing that we do. Another thing, so we put our kids to bed fairly early at night, and we're like very strict about the bedtime routine. The older ones now go to bed a little bit later, but like our youngest Cooper, and probably until they're like 3, 4, are in bed at 7.
Okay.
And then the older boys, we take them up at 7:45, and they're like, we're done with the bedtime routine by 8.
Okay.
So that gives, we're very early to bed because we're early to rise also. But that gives us, like 45 minutes of us time to decompress from the day and just chat. And one thing that we started doing is we call it 3 good things. And so we'll just like sit outside or lay in bed together, and we each say like 3 good things from the day. Okay. And it can be small, like, oh, Hendrix like got his clothes on when we first asked him, or I first asked him to, or I had a really great cup of coffee with a friend this morning, or it can be bigger things too, but just, it helps to kind of spark that conversation and go back and visit those moments from the day that otherwise I feel like just get lost in the chaos. And
by the next day, you're on to the next thing.
Yeah.
You get to share.
Yeah. And it's also just so easy at the end of the night. Like, you're both exhausted. You just want to decompress. I don't want to like sit and have this long conversation. But it's just, it gives you those little like nice tidbits from throughout the day.
Yeah. I love that. And are your kids good at staying in their rooms? Like, is your little one, you put her down and she's staying even though the big boys are downstairs?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
We joke that our house sounds like a F-45 engine at night from all of the sound machines that we have going.
Okay.
So we got to drown out the sound a little bit, but
That's impressive, though.
She's still in a crib, too, so that helps.
Okay.
So she can't quite escape.
Okay. Yeah. Very impressive still, I think. My kids have FOMO, so they'll be like, what's going on out there?
Yeah.
What are you doing? Hey, Omaha Mom Talks. It's me, Chelsi. I'm super excited to share with you guys that we are partnering with Diventures Swim School. Learning how to swim and do it safely is a huge priority for our family. I'm heading over to Diventures later this week to tour their facilities and get my girls enrolled in classes. All of their classes are customized based on age and skill level. I took a really easy, quick quiz online to determine which class was best for my kids. If you're interested in swim lessons for your kids, please check them out at Diventures Swim School to determine which class would be best for you. So let's just talk about mom life and juggling it all. So you have 3 kids, you have a full-time job, you have a social media presence. Do you feel pressure to do it all and have it all figured out?
Yes. I mean, I feel like it's impossible if you're on social media at all to not view all of these women that you follow and think, well, they're doing all of this. Why can't I? And it's very hard to remember what you're not seeing.
Yeah.
If they have nannies, if they have housekeepers, like anything that helps take something off of their plate. It feels and looks and seems like they themselves are doing everything when usually that's not actually the case.
Right. There's so much comparison with social media. And I guess, how do you make sure, or is it important to you to emphasize like the real, the messy, along with,
pretty and curated.
The pretty birthday parties and the cute decor.
Yeah, every once in a while I try to show our house and the disaster that it normally is, and just to remind people that like this is what daily life looks like when you have young kids and you're working, and even if you're not working, like even if you're staying home with the kids, just having the kids there.
Yes. They live there.
Yes, and that's how it should be. Mm-hmm. I like seeing that when other people post it because it reminds me that these messes are okay. Mm-hmm. It's okay to not have this quote unquote Instagram pretty life like at all moments, because that's not reality.
Yeah, especially with little kids.
Yes.
We always hear like, it takes a village, and it's certainly a lot of people do outsource. Like you said, some people have nannies or housekeepers. Tell us a little bit about like your support system or what things you have in place to help keep the things going.
Yeah. So we are super lucky, and my parents live maybe 7 minutes from us. They still live in the house that we grew up in. So they are super involved in the kiddos' lives and are always like willing to pick them up or take them to things when we inevitably need help. And then Will's parents actually just moved here. Gosh, has it been like 3 years ago now?
Okay.
They aren't as close. They're in Ralston, so they're a little bit more of a jaunt, but still like we have them as an option, for helping with the kiddos.
Great.
We've been really blessed to find some great babysitters that we use for our date nights. We try to reserve my parents or his parents for when we like really need somebody.
Yes.
And because it's, it's grandparents, so like you don't want them always to have to be babysitting them. So we've been really lucky to find some great care for our kiddos that have honestly become like family to us.
Love that.
One thing that we do outsource, and we started doing this right when I was fresh postpartum with Carson, is part of our meals for the week. Little shout out to Food Bros here in Omaha if you guys have not heard of them. So they have a couple of different options. They have like bulk food that you can get. So what we started off with was like bulk turkey, roasted carrots, edamame, and I think it was roasted Brussels sprouts. And we would make like a stir fry. And that would last us for most of our dinners through the week. They also have meal options. So that's kind of what we're on now, because we've been doing this for almost 7 years, I guess 7 years now that we've kept with them. And they're very reasonably priced. And so, yeah, I'll just get a couple of meals, even just to take the burden off of like a couple lunches and a couple dinners.
Yes.
And the kids are now getting to the point where they will actually eat some of the meals.
Okay.
Also.
Good.
Don't be fooled though. Most of the time it's chicken nuggets and hot dogs and mac and cheese. Like, yeah.
I get it. We did, grilled cheese last night on the fly. Like, just need something to feed their little tummies sometimes.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have good support. It sounds
Yes.
like you have some babysitters and then outsourcing some food. I think it's important for moms, I never want to give the illusion that everyone is doing it all perfectly all the time.
Yes.
And so I really appreciate that you're willing to talk about, like, it's not always beautiful and curated, and we do have support and help, and we have systems in place to lighten the load and try to make things a little bit easier.
Yeah, Will and I talk about constantly, props to people that do this. I don't know how they do it. If you live away from family or don't have that support system and you have young kiddos, it would be much, much more difficult. Yeah. I truly don't know how people do it.
Yeah, and it is a privilege to have family, not only that is close, but that is reliable and trustworthy, because not everybody has that, for sure. I heard you say earlier that I don't know the exact term that you used, but that you have some control issues. And so tell me, how do you ask for help when you need it? And is that hard for you? Or has that been a skill that you have learned, or you're still learning?
Still learning. Absolutely still learning. I think the control a lot of times goes along with like the type A personality.
Sure.
There was actually like this very, very stark, I don't think stark's the right word, this moment in time that I remember specifically. It was kind of this intersection, I'll say, in Will and I's relationship, where I had done the laundry, I folded it, and I had taken it like down to our kitchen. This may have even been before kids. And it was in the laundry basket. And the next day I came home, and he had been home like throughout the day, and it was still there. And I'm like, I'm just going to leave the laundry basket here and see how
his eyes
long
see it.
or if it gets put away. And it was like 2 days later, and it was still there. And I'm like, okay, I can't live with this laundry basket. Like, walking past it one more time, I'm going to say something. And so I'm like, hey, like, do you see this laundry basket full of laundry that I folded sitting here? And like, did you think about maybe putting it away? And he's like, I literally like don't even see it. I mean, he is not type A at all. He is like type B to a T. And he's just like, I don't even notice it like I do. I just walk past it and it's just there. And I just like, I don't even see it. And so that was a big mind shift for me, that things that are important to me and that I see and notice because of my personality, he doesn't. And he's like, you just have to ask. And so that was a big learning point on communication in our relationship, where I'm like, okay, I do need to ask when I need him to do things.
Yes.
And
it doesn't mean that he's not involved or invested. It's just he doesn't see it the same way you see it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And one thing that we learned really early on is it's not about each of us doing 50%.
Yes.
It's about both of us giving as much as we can at any given point, because there's going to be some times when he's taking care of 80% of housework or childcare, whatever it is, just the things that have to get done. And I can only give 20% because of whatever factors that are going on, and it's going to flip flop. And so if you strive to do 100% as often as you can or as much as you can, you're going to be a lot better off than saying, well, I'm doing X, Y, and Z, so then he should be doing these other things.
The tit for tat or the keeping track. It's never going to be equal, but we want it to be equitable. We want it to be a shared responsibility.
Yeah.
But sometimes your capacity is different based on the day and work and kids and your sleep and all the things.
Yeah. And so I've really had to learn, and I will say, like, hey, I've been feeling the load of laundry or dishes a lot. Like, can you try to pick up the slack a little bit or just help pitch in where you can? And He's like, yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like it's never a point of contention. It's just being able to speak up and not let that fester.
Yes.
So that it eventually explodes.
Right. Like you said with the laundry basket, like it was days of you, right? And it was building, yes. Right? And so, and I think a lot of us do that where then it's like, I'm also part of the problem here right. because I'm not communicating like the first time or whatever. So getting into that habit of asking for what we need.
I have one more story that just popped into my head about that was recent where he had to like picked up, and I'm doing quotations for the people that are listening online, cleaned the kitchen. And in his mind, he was like, oh my gosh, I just did this amazing thing. I cleaned up so much. Me not knowing this, I walk in the door and I'm like, oh, the house is such a disaster right now. Like I need to clean up. And he's just like, shit, like I just cleaned. And he was like, I think it was a realization for him that our expectations are very different. Sure. And it was a funny like learning moment for me also, because I'm like, I'm so sorry. Like I wasn't trying to, make a dig at you. Yeah. I see all of these other little things. And in my mind, that stuff, as much as I would like for it not to, it stresses me out. And I feel like it affects my mental state when things are not in their place.
Yeah. One thing that I think, like, I don't know if you do this, but when our house is a mess, I'm hard on myself internally. Mm-hmm. And I'm starting this narrative of basically like, I'm not good enough because I'm not getting it all done. But what I learned is my husband has his own version of that. Yeah. He might not see the same like mess, because like the times that I've said like critical things about our house, like, oh my God, it's such a mess. He feels bad too. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know that. It like took us a while to figure it out, but it is a shared living space and we all are responsible for taking care of it. And if we can communicate that with each other, we can lighten the load for sure. Yeah.
Well, it's hard to remember, like you said, it's a lived in space. Like it's supposed to be messy. Yes. We're living our lives there.
Yes.
It's not supposed to be a museum. This is me talking to myself.
No, I know. I'll laugh because my sister had like amazingly clean kids. She still does. And so she laughs when she comes over to our house and she'll be like, didn't you just like deep clean yesterday? And I'm like, yeah, I did.
Yeah.
And these children live here.
Maniacs.
And they are like little tornadoes. So yeah, it's so hard to keep it all organized when they live there. So let's share a little bit about like work. So you've talked a little bit about working full-time outside of the job. What can you share with us about your job and kind of what you do?
Yeah. So I work at a financial firm here in town. I've been there since I was postpartum with Carson.
Okay.
So what would that be? Almost 7 years. Yeah. This year in May actually will be my anniversary. And I help support a team of our VPs there that work with financial advisors throughout the country.
Okay. Yeah. And I think you had told me you do have a little bit of a, what do you call it? Like a hybrid, like some days you work from home, some days you're in office. Yeah. Yep. Do you like that balance?
I do. Yes.
I think as a working mom, that would be.
Yeah. 'Cause it's nice. Like it's hard for me at home. I'm not probably going to put on actual pants, like jeans. And I still try to every day, like do my hair, like do something with it, run a brush through it and put on some sort of makeup just because I feel the best when I do that.
I like that too.
And I didn't for a long time, but I found that my days, like at the end of the day, I just personally felt a lot better when I had just a little something. Like it doesn't need to take long, 10 minutes.
I love when moms can figure out a balance like that. I know like for me, I don't like working from home. Because I get too distracted by like the home tasks. Like I like being in my office and in my zone and just like I know my kids are taken care of and I can focus on work and that works for me. But I'm so happy when I hear of moms that are able to have a hybrid and that works well for them because they're able to maybe knock out a few other like pickups and drop-offs and things like that.
Yeah.
So
I also really like it because I actually get to work with Will. Not in the same department, but he works for the same company that I do. So we get to see each other throughout the day and meet for coffee.
That's nice.
Yeah.
I had shared on my social media that my husband and we work in the same building. We're not like, it's not the same company, but he actively avoids me. because I put him to work. I'll be like, can you take my garbage out? Or my printer's broken. Could you change it? And so like we do not have those cute coffee moments. He's usually avoiding me, but occasionally he'll drop me off lunch or a Diet Coke or something. Yeah. So we're very different. Well, tell me, how do you manage like work deadlines, mom obligations, school pickup, drop off? How are you managing all of those responsibilities along with social media?
Yeah. Somebody shared this, and I wish I could remember who it was. It was a couple of years ago, and it's something that really stuck with me. And they said that everything in your life are essentially balls, and you have to figure out which ones are rubber and can bounce when you drop them inevitably, and which ones are glass and you cannot let drop. So for example, like family is one of my glass balls that like that's never going to fall to the bottom on the totem pole, just because that's what's important to me in life. Whereas like certain aspects of work, that's a rubber ball for me. Like that, I can let things go, and I know that it's going to bounce back up eventually. As far as like balancing it all, I don't think that there is a true balance. I wish that there was, but there's always going to be something at this point in our life when it's just so full that that I'm lacking in, and I'm okay with that.
I have to accept that.
I have to accept that. Usually that means Instagram is the one that falls kind of by the wayside when things get really hectic in life, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Like at the point that I'm at, I'm not willing to give up time with Will. I'm not willing to give up time with my family. And so that doesn't leave a lot of other space for things that I can't give up.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the messages I always share with women is you can do it all, but you're not meant to do it all at the same time. And I think that because something will not be perfect there,
right? Because
you can't give 100% to multiple things all the time at the same time.
Yep.
So you mentioned Instagram. Let's chat a little bit about this social media journey, and tell me, like, how did you get started and what were your original goals with sharing online?
Yeah. So it was very much a fluke when I got started.
Okay.
I was on maternity leave with Carson, and people would reach out on Instagram being like, oh, where'd you get that sweater? Or tell me about the hair products that you use. And LTK was like just starting at this point.
Like to Know It.
Yes, Like to Know It. And so I applied to be on Like to Know It, and I had maybe like 3,000 followers. It was not a lot. And they accepted me, and I still think it was a fluke to this day. I was just chatting with my LTK like rep the other day, telling her the story, and I would check my email being like, oh my gosh, they're going to email me and say, I'm sorry, it was a mistake that you got in. Like, we have to revoke it. Yeah. Yeah. And so I just really started posting on LTK, and just slowly growing my audience and following. And it's still something that I do on the side right now. Like it's just these little pockets of time that I find, since I am working full time right now outside of the home. But the reason that I keep doing it and keep putting an effort into it is, one, is it's such a fun creative outlet for me. Like getting to, you know, share my favorite clothes, or like the kids' birthday parties is something that I really enjoy doing and sharing, but also because of the people that I've met through it. Like I've met some of my best friends through Instagram, and I probably otherwise would not have met in real life.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I just started on social media like a couple months ago. And it came from a place of like darkness. I was going through grief, and it has been such a wonderful creative outlet for me. But the biggest, happiest surprise is these friendships that I've made. And I guess I wasn't expecting that or thinking of that. And it's been so cool to make friends with women in different parts of the United States. And we've done like online coffee chats and things like that. And my husband was making fun of me because I used to tease him for having online video game friends. And he's like, now here you are with your online friends. And I'm like, I wasn't even expecting it. And it's like, it really is such a happy surprise and such a fun part of connecting with people.
I think it's arguably the best part. of Instagram, because it can be, especially in the last, like handful of years, it's been a kind of a weird place.
Sure.
Like it'll get into these really just hard environments depending upon what's going on, in the United States when we were in COVID, like all of that stuff. And the people that I have met and those friendships that I've built, like that's what keeps me wanting to continue doing it.
Yeah. So I know I heard you say during your postpartum period with your first is when you kind of got started. And I feel like a lot of moms that I hear from are interested in pursuing like an online presence. Any advice that you would give to those, especially if you're like, I think a lot of moms maybe are trying to, how can I earn income from this and stay at home with my kids? Any advice or feedback that you would give?
Yeah, the biggest piece of advice I would say is be authentic. People, especially now, are craving like the real, showing the messy, not having all of these perfectly curated pictures, which is really hard to like wrap my mind around, because for so long Instagram was, people just wanted the curation. They didn't want to see the mess. And now I feel like it's completely done a 180, where they want to be able to relate to the people that they are following, that they're purchasing from. It helps build trust with your followers. To know that you're not just like slinging these random products that you don't actually like or use. Yeah, exactly. So just coming from a really authentic place, not trying to be the people that you follow, but just trying to be like the ones that you like to follow. Like, why do you like to follow them? What's engaging about them? Why do you keep going back to their profile? And when I would sit down and think about that, for me, it's like I get a peek into their life, but I get a peek into their real life. They're showing the messy, they're showing the hard parts, they're talking about the hard parts, and not acting like every day is just butterflies and unicorns.
Yes. Yeah. And I do think that it is pretty, easy to like spot phony. And why do I want to follow that? There's enough of that in the world. I want to follow people that either like inspire me or are funny or relatable or have a similar, like lifestyle or season of life as me.
Yes.
How do you navigate, especially as a mom, like what to share on social media and what to keep private?
I don't have like a hard and fast set of rules that I follow. I feel like it ebbs and it flows as the kids get older, and especially Carson now, like he's more aware when I'm like taking pictures or videos, and I pretty much only film when they're gone. I usually don't film as far as like for content that I'm putting out. They'll be in stories, and because I'm just sharing, like
your day
bits and pieces of our day. But for example, I just had a partnership recently with McDonald's, and I was like, hey, I have this work deal with McDonald's. Do you want to be a part of it? And if you want to, like they're paying me, I'll give you part of that payment. And he was like, yeah, like that sounds amazing. I want to do that. So just, getting their consent when they're old enough. And I try to share things that I hope that they never look back on in 20 years and are embarrassed about or upset about. And I feel like that's been a little bit of a learning curve, because when Instagram first started and like stories first started, you didn't really know or think about, I guess I didn't, okay, if I'm sharing this now, is this going to affect them 20 years later? Because when we were growing up, we didn't have any of this.
No.
And people can do deep dives when they're looking for jobs or...
Right. And especially if you're posting just stories, like I'm thinking, oh, it disappears.
Yeah.
But we truly know like anything posted online has a footprint.
Yeah. So, and I try to keep like their school private. And obviously there's a lot of local moms that know where they go, but I'm more worried about, the weirdos out there that aren't going to probably figure out where we are. But so there's certain aspects like that I'll keep private. And as they get older, I don't know, there's a lot of influencers that I follow who have stopped sharing their kids, which I respect and I get, and it might come to that someday. Right now, I'm okay with sharing them occasionally, but I don't know. We'll just have to see. I kind of take it day by day.
And what feels comfortable
what
for
feels
you.
comfortable, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good guide. You mentioned some like brand partnerships. Have you had any brand partnerships that were like super meaningful or super exciting or felt like a milestone you were working towards?
I feel like McDonald's was really fun because my kids don't fully grasp, obviously, like content creation and partnerships. They know that I like that this is work and that I create videos for or take pictures for work. But the other brands that I had done, they would be like, oh, like, I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
But McDonald's, they were like, oh my gosh, like, you get to have McDonald's. They're going to post you. Like, you get to eat McDonald's for free. Like, sign me up. So that was fun just because it resonated with them. Yeah. And they know that brand. Like, obviously, I think everybody knows McDonald's. Yeah. So that was really fun.
That is so cute. They were probably like, my mom's like the biggest and best working with McDonald's. Yeah. I know my kids would be so excited. Those golden arches. Oh my goodness. Is there anything else with your platform that you are hoping to either evolve into or just like a message or like when people land on your page, what you're hoping that they get from your little space on the internet?
Yeah, I hope that when people land on my page that it brings them happiness because again, there's so much just like darkness and ick out there right now that it's hard to be on social media sometimes, like the doom scrolling.
Yeah.
So I hope it can bring them, whether it's happiness through something I'm sharing that they can buy for their kids or clothes that they like and can buy for themselves or something funny. And then also just finding that I'm relatable and that I'm just like, they understand I'm just another mom. Mm-hmm. I'm literally just sharing my hot mess of a life, putting together cute outfits on the occasion that I can, mm-hmm. and that I don't have it all together. And I probably won't ever have it all together without some major help. Yeah.
I love that. Well, for folks that want to follow you and learn more about you, where can they find you?
Yeah, so I am primarily on Instagram, just at Chelsi Morales. Occasionally I will post to TikTok, and I'm starting to post there again.
Okay.
But TikTok is a whole different beast, I feel like.
Yeah.
And I'm still trying to figure it out.
I hear ya.
It is very, very different from Instagram. I love consuming it, but I'm still trying to figure out as a creator, like how to post on there without having to completely recreate.
Oh my gosh, I have no idea either.
Everything.
So funny to think about because the younger generation is
oh my gosh,
all about the TikTok.
Well, somebody was just telling me the other day that have like middle school kids are like, they don't even text anymore. They Snapchat back and forth.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, how is this life?
I'm laughing because I don't get on Snapchat anymore because I don't have time for it. But I have like 30 messages from my nieces that I'm like, when I go into it, I'm like, oh gosh, but I don't have time for all of the apps, and Snapchat's just one that I have to give up because I don't have time. Well, Chelsi, thank you so much for joining us. Seriously, I really appreciate it. I definitely, for those that are listening, if you aren't familiar with Chelsi, give her a follow. Her family is just super beautiful and adorable. I love following you. I love birthday parties too. And so I love like your crafts and your decor and like your hacks for making parties look beautiful. So you are doing it and looking good and being authentic along the way. So we appreciate it.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. This has been great.
Yes. So thank you again to Chelsi. And for those that are listening at Omaha Mom Talks, I hope that this episode resonates with you. And if you want to share it with another mom friend who needs to hear this message as well, we would love for that to be shared. And as always, thanks for hanging out with us at Omaha Mom Talks. Omaha Mom Talks. Real moms, authentic conversations, no filter needed.